Okay, so today we're going to be talking about how translations affect our parabola graph and kind of see how we can use those when we're trying to graph, find the vertex, and things like that. Okay, so we've already talked about our parent function here. This is the y equals x squared. Okay, looks like that red graph there. We discovered this in class. Good to go. Beautiful. Life is good. Okay, so now we're going to wonder, let's say you take that y equals x squared and you were to add 2 units to it. Okay, so let's just take a look at what that graph looks like. And you could kind of take a guess right now if you want to. But you're adding 2 units after you square your x, and then it'll give you your new y's. Okay, so if we look at this, we took our parent function and we shifted it up 2 units. Interesting. Now, if we look at this one here, x squared minus 3, let's take a look at that one. We took our parent function and we shifted it down 3 units. Okay, so take a second what you think that this one's going to look like, x squared minus 4. Okay. Hopefully you were close to being right. We took our parent function and shifted it down 4 units. Okay, so the key thing to kind of take away from here, and I'll kind of get this back to where we have one graph so it's not as congested. So you took your parent function, okay, so you have the y equals x squared, and now we're adding 2 units to that. So after we've squared our x and everything like that, we have to add 2. So that's why x values are staying the same, but now we're adding 2 units, so we're shifting our parent function up 2 units. Okay. This here is called a vertical translation. And when you're thinking of vertical, you should be thinking up and down. Happens on the end here, the x squared plus 2. So we would say that this is a vertical translation of 2 going up, or just to make it easier, you could say up 2. This one here, the green one, will be down 3, and then the purple one will be down 4. Okay, now we're going to be looking at ones like this. Again, our parent function, but notice here that we're subtracting the 1 from our x value, and then we're squaring it. Okay, so take a guess at what you think this is going to do. And we'll look at the actual graph here. Okay, so this moved it to the right 1 unit. Now, you might have guessed that it's going to move it to the left 1 unit because of the negative sign. Well, let's see what happens in this case when we actually add 1. What happens to that graph? Well, that graph took our parent function and moved it to the left 1 unit. Okay, so this is a little bit different than what we saw with the vertical shifts. With these shifts, it's kind of opposite what we would think. So a nice little rule of thumb if you're really having trouble seeing this, when we have our parentheses here, it's kind of opposite what we're going to think. So we think we would go to the left one, but we're actually going to go to the right one in this blue case. And in the green case, it's kind of the opposite. We're going to see why this is as we move on later in the chapter. But for now, we kind of just understand what's going on. You can even plug in a few x values here to see this happen. Be good to go. Okay, so taking those away. Now, but what about this one? So you have x minus 5 squared. So take a second and think to yourself what's going to happen there. Okay, take a look at it. And minus 5, you would think it's going to go to the left, but since it's inside parentheses, it's opposite what we would think. So it actually moves to the right 5 units. And then you could decide x plus 6 squared. Take a second and think about that. Hopefully you got our parent function, x plus 6. It's going to be opposite what we would think, so we're going to move it to the left 6 units. Okay, so one thing to kind of think about here, so if you were to say this is a horizontal translation, we're moving left and right, okay, here you would just say left 6, this would be right 5, left 1, right 1. One thing to kind of think about, when you hear something that says left 5 or up 2, remember they're talking about the vertex of your parent function. So you took the vertex of your parent function and you moved it left 6 units for this guy here. Okay. If we were to go up 2, we took our vertex and moved it up 2 units. Okay, the last translation we're going to talk about is a reflection. So now we throw a negative sign in front of the x squared. Okay, and let's see what happens there. Well, kind of flipped our parabola over its vertex. But Mr. Pons, why is that? Great question. Well, if you think about up here, okay, you're going to have your x value and square it. That gives us this. Well, now we're saying, okay, whatever that x value squared comes out to be, take the opposite of it. So up here, when we had a positive 4 up here, when x is negative 2, we're taking the opposite of that. Well, the opposite of 4 is negative 4. So you're taking the opposite of all these values, and that's what reflects it over this vertex. So whenever you see the negative sign here, this is a reflection. Okay, here are a few examples that combine a bunch of the translations together. Take a second and try each one, and then we'll talk about it. Okay, welcome back. The first one here, let's take a look at that. This is just a vertical translation. We went up 2 units. Notice the little bars here are by halves, not 1. But we went up 2 units here because the 2's at the end. There are no parentheses, so we don't have to worry about a horizontal shift. We're just taking our values and increasing them by 2, the outputs. Okay, so that one wasn't too bad. Now this one here, okay, well, we see we do have parentheses, so you should be thinking about a horizontal shift. And then we're going up 4 units. Okay, that's our vertical shift. And remember, a horizontal shift is opposite what we would think. So you would think we'd go left 2 units, but since it's in the parentheses, we're going opposite that. So we should expect it to go right 2 units and up 4. Let's take a look. Oh, look at that. Our vertex moved right 2 units and up 4. Okay. Okay, now this one here, well, right away when you see that negative sign on x squared, we should be thinking a reflection. Okay. We have no parentheses, so we're not going to have a horizontal shift. And then this minus 3 is a vertical shift that just tells us we're going down 3. So we should expect our vertex to go down 3 and then be reflected. Look at that. Vertex went down 3 and then was reflected. Okay, for this last one, take a second to make sure. Try your best to figure this one out. Okay, so for this one here, we have a negative sign right away, so we're expecting it to be a reflection. We have parentheses, so we know that we're going to have a horizontal shift. Plus 4, remember we think opposite, so we're going to be moving to the left 4. And then the plus 3 is a vertical shift, so we'll be moving up 3. So we're expecting this guy to go left 4, up 3, and be reflected. So left 4, up 3, and then be reflected. That's what we're expecting it to look like. Look at that. Beautiful. Okay, this here, when it's in this form that we're able to see the translations really easy and determine where the new vertex is going to be, and look at that, vertex is negative 3, 4, or negative 4, 3. This is called vertex form. Okay, it's really easy to tell where the vertex is at when a parabola is in this form. So later on, we're going to take parabolas that are not in this form and try to get them into this form because it's really easy to graph them. Okay? Okay, hopefully this helped out, and let me know if you have any more questions.